So what we need to have a look at is 5 different factors that may influence managers when they come to making decisions. 5 things that may really feed into the decisions that they end up making, and kind of explains really why managers might make different decisions depending on the circumstances that they find themselves in. So our first factor that's going to go into influencing the decisions that end up getting made is the overall mission, purpose, intention of the organisation. And businesses have different reasons for being, different missions. Imagine a business's mission is to do with exclusivity. It's to do with offering incredibly high levels of added value to the organisation by trying to be seen as quality, as luxurious. And that's their goal, that's their mission, to be the most desirable, luxurious brand on the market. You can see how managers working in that organisation may end up making very, very different decisions to their counterparts in a different organisation that's pursuing a different mission. Imagine a rival business whose mission is to offer customers the best value and the lowest prices on the marketplace. You've got one rival going for luxury and exclusivity. You've got another rival that's pushing value and low price. And you can see how managers in those organisations may end up making very, very different decisions, because the decisions that they have to make in their jobs must fit in with the purpose, the goal, the identity, and the mission of the organisation that they work for. Now, very, very closely aligned to mission statements is, of course, that the objectives that managers are then set to try and pursue that help the business get to where it wants to be and help it accomplish its mission. So objectives can also play a big role in determining the kinds of decisions that managers end up making. For example, again, let's imagine a manager has been set the objective of trying to boost the business's market share. They want to achieve some kind of growth, some kind of expansion. You can see that managers will then have to factor that into the decisions that they are making. Whereas another manager might be working in a business that is trying to increase its competitiveness, is perhaps trying to survive in a market where there's very, very tough trading conditions. And maybe that firm's objectives for the coming 12, 18, 24 months are more to do with cost minimization and trying to sort of reduce the amount of expenditure that's going from the different functional areas in the business. Again, you can see how being set those 2 different objectives, one chasing growth and market share, the other chasing cost minimization and savings, those 2 factors are going to feed into the decisions that the managers are going to have to make. They're things that the managers are going to have to take into account when they're making their decisions, and we can see how there might be influences on the end decisions that the managers end up making. Now, another factor that we should perhaps talk about is the role of ethics in the organisation. For some businesses, the role of ethics and considering the views of different stakeholders in their organisation is a key part of the decisions that they make. And managers may naturally shy away from options or decisions or outcomes that may cause disgruntlement amongst certain groups of stakeholders, whether that be employees, whether that be suppliers, local communities, pressure groups, environmentalists. For some businesses, it's very important that their managers take the business's ethical stance into consideration when they're making any big, major tactical or strategic decision for the organisation. In other firms where ethics is perhaps not a central part of their focus, it may be less of a responsibility of managers to consider ethical ramifications when they're making decisions, and they have a little bit more latitude to make decisions without so much forethought about what the ethical consequences might be. We pop down to the bottom here. Another factor that obviously influences the decisions that managers make is the resources that are at their disposal. Now, some managers may be quite fortunate and find that they have great resources at their disposal, maybe financial resources, so they've got budgets that allow them to make a broader spectrum of decisions. Could be human resources as well. So maybe they've got the quality of workforce with the skills and the characteristics that allow certain decisions to be made. Other managers may find themselves working in organisations where resources are more scarce, where the budgets are tighter, maybe the workforce don't have all of the skills currently that might be required if managers are to make certain decisions. So again, we can see that the resources that managers have available can play a big impact on feeding into the decisions that they make. Final thing we'll have a look at, big influence on the external environment big influence on decisions that are being made is the external environment. Factors to do with the economy, to do with consumer tastes and fashions. In particular, maybe things to do with competitors. And competitors can play a very, very important part in determining the decisions that their rivals end up making. Sometimes managers find themselves forced to make decisions in response to what rivals are currently doing. So as competitors perhaps engage in new product development, developing new lines for their portfolio, it may mean that other managers in other firms feel like their hand is forced into making similar decisions. Similarly, if rivals are slashing prices and offering customers better value, it may force managers in rival firms to think about making similar decisions in order to remain competitive. If rivals are increasing the quality, the luxury of their brand, again, it may just make managers sit down and think, is this a decision that we also need to make in order to ensure that we remain competitive in this industry? So for the exam, we've got 5 key areas there that really feed into the decisions that managers make. Mission statements, objectives, absolutely crucial. You can't have managers making decisions that aren't contributing towards the direction and the goals of the organization. Ethics can be a big one as well, especially if that's a selling point for the organization and one of the things that they pride themselves on in offering customers. The resources available are really going to act almost like handcuffs on managers. Sometimes managers won't be able to make the decisions that they want because of the constraints that they face in terms of their resources. And factors beyond managers' control, those factors in the external environment, particularly to do with competitors and their actions, they can obviously affect the decisions that managers end up making. Quick little tour of the influences on decision making there. Another easy one for you to check off in terms of your exam revision. We'll see you for another tutorial very soon.